Before we begin, if there's any issues you have with this video or any of my previous videos, feel free to hit up my Discord, which is linked in the description. Also, just go ahead and hop in there if you just want to hang out, but also if you feel like debating or discussing any of my videos with me. Also, the Lancer class poll will be in the top right hand corner. Karna and Vlad were both in last place with 4% in the last poll, so I went ahead and just knocked both of them out. So we're down to Kuhullen, Skahawk, and Enkidu. Feel free to vote for whichever servant you want me to cover in my next Fate video in the top right hand corner. So just like Artoria in her video, there are many different versions of Gilgamesh that I could cover in this video, and I'm boiling it down to the two main versions, the main timeline version of Gilgamesh and the game timeline version of Gilgamesh. The main timeline, for anybody curious, will be drawing off of Fate Khalid, Fate Strange Fake, Fate Zero, and Fate Stay Night, and the game version of Gilgamesh will be going off of Fate Extra, Fate CCC, and Fate Extella. I'm leaving out Grand Order because the only appearance Gilgamesh has really had in Grand Order is as a caster, and I'm really saving that for its own video because I personally don't know a whole lot about Caster Gil yet, as we don't have Babylon in English, so I'll get to that when I get to it. So the main timeline version of Gilgamesh is easily in those Mountain Plus tiers in base, seeing as he's able to completely obliterate and dominate Hercules, who is stated to be strong enough to destroy mountains with a single swing. And before anybody brings up the fact that he's protecting Ilya, the actual line that Gilgamesh gives in their fight is that, hey, if you stop protecting the girl, you might stand a chance, which implies that even if he were to stop protecting Ilya, he wouldn't stand a chance against Gilgamesh, which is even further apparent in the fact that Gilgamesh never even hints at using Ea in the entire fight. Now, in Fate CCC, Gilgamesh is easily in those solar system tiers because he was able to beat Kiara, who just by her own sheer size would be in those at bare minimum star level tiers to solar system tiers. Now, he did do this with Ea. I haven't seen any gameplay or cutscenes where he's not using Ea in this fight, so this would be a more serious Gilgamesh, but still, it's really impressive nonetheless that he's hitting these tiers in CCC. Then, by far, the most impressive version of Gilgamesh that we've seen so far is Fate Extella Gilgamesh, as he is on those White Titan tiers, if not far superior to that. As we know, the White Titan was able to shake and threaten the entire infinite universe of Fate, which would put it at about universal, if not much higher, and Gilgamesh again is on that tier of characters, if not higher. The reason I say he could be higher is because in base, he pretty much obliterates Altera in her own timeline, no less. And Altera in base was already able to fight against the White Titan and beat it in the end of her own timeline. And then of course we also see in Gilgamesh's own side story, he's able to pretty much utterly dominate Artoria, who again is also on that tier of character that can actually beat Safar. So that's why I would say that you could probably even scale him even higher than that, but just to be safe, we'll just stick with him being White Titan level, which again would put him in those universal ranges. Then as far as speed is concerned, in Fate Strange Fake, we actually get a quote stating that Hercules' arrows are faster than lightning, and Gilgamesh is able to react to these arrows pretty easily, so that would easily put Gilgamesh in those lightning tiers as far as speed goes. But it's also stated in that same quote that the arrows are surpassing the limits of humanity, which sometimes is referred to being light, as you know, we can't go faster than light, it's impossible. So if you're going to argue from that angle, you could argue that the arrows are moving faster than light, and Gilgamesh has, you know, light speed or faster than light reactions, but anything higher than that, as far as like the anime timeline concerned, is a bit much. Now in Fate Extella, Gilgamesh would easily be in those massively faster than light plus tiers, seeing as Safar's screams are traveling across the infinite universe of Fate to summon Velber, which means they'd be moving pretty quickly, at least at massively faster than light speeds, and all the characters in Fate that are at least present to see Safar doing these screams are able to casually react to these screams and note how fast they're moving. And Gilgamesh is above most of the characters present there. I mean, like, it's Nero, Emiya, Karna, it depends on the timeline, but he's at least, again, comparable to those characters, if not far superior. As far as class and personal skills go, I'm not going to be covering stuff like Charisma or Golden Rule because they're really not applicable in a combat scenario, so I'm going to be leaving those out to make room for the actual useful skills. Like Magic Resistant C, which, just as it sounds, is an innate resistance to magic that Gilgamesh has. It is a quite low rank, but it's still quite useful, you know, because a lot of verses do use magic. Like, say you're going to pit Gilgamesh up against Sephiroth, you know, wink wink, nudge nudge. You know, it'd be very useful in a combat situation like that. Divinity is something that could be more of a hindrance to Gilgamesh than could actually help him, because I don't know a lot of verses where it's like, oh yeah, if you're godly or whatever, you just do a ton of damage to everybody. When it comes to a lot of verses, it does seem like there's more god-killing weapons than there are gods just having an innate buff against people. I'm not saying that that's not out there, but I'm just noting it here as more of a weakness for Gilgamesh, that him having divinity at such a high rank to at B could be more of a detriment to him than it could help him in most combat scenarios. Independent action is another one of those really useful skills, because say you're doing a versus match where it's like Gilgamesh and Tokiomi versus, I don't know, some other random character, right? If Tokiomi is killed, Gilgamesh will be able to fight on for a long period of time with independent action A. We see Archer and Unlimited Blade Work say that he's going to live another 3 days even without a master, so that's just really impressive, and it's a really nice skill to have. Emiya also only has independent action rank B, and I believe it's actually only 2 days that he can live in the world without a master, but you know, just quick correction here. Moving on to Gilgamesh's noble phantasms, starting off with Enkidu. These are the chains of heaven. The more divinity you possess, the stronger these chains will bind you. If you do not possess divinity, they'll just be a really strong, sturdy chain, and they're still very useful. These chains are not invincible. Hercules is able to break out of them at the end of his fight with Gilgamesh, so don't go thinking around that, oh, if you have divinity, these will completely bind you and you're not getting out. And there's the Gates of Babylon, which basically houses all of Gilgamesh's treasures. It houses numerous noble phantasms ranking E to A++, and he fires these like projectiles, and that's really all there is to it. He stores all of his other noble phantasms like Enkidu and Ea in it, but it's really just a very basic premise of it's a door to his treasure vault, and he fires all these swords and random weapons at you like arrows. Then we have Ea, which is Gilgamesh's most powerful noble phantasm, and the reason you'll see him being put at planetary even in the animes, because it's stated to be an anti-world noble phantasm that destroys the concept of worlds, and even in Fate's Strange Fake, it threatens to destroy the planet and actually exponentially increases its power output. Enuma Elish is just Ea operating at its maximum output. There's not a whole lot to it. It shoots a big old red laser, and that's really all there is to it, man. Enuma Elish is just Ea at maximum output. Although at maximum output it goes from being an A++ noble phantasm to EX, so I mean that's something. There are other noble phantasms that Gilgamesh has used, but I'm not going to bring them up because they don't seem very applicable for this version of Gilgamesh. He does have Venenma, which is his plane, but he really only used that in one combat scenario, and that was against Lancelot. And he didn't even bring it up to fight Lancelot. He was just kind of chilling, and then Lancelot engaged him with, you know, the F-15 or whatever. So it's not like he breaks it out for combat. And then there's the hat that he can put on to become invisible, but we've only seen him use that as a kid. Not saying his adult self isn't capable of using it, but it just feels weird to bring it out for adult Gilgamesh since he's never used it, if you get what I mean. Before I end the video, I actually do want to bring up the various L's that Gilgamesh has taken in the series, because you'll see these losses be brought up to try to downplay how strong Gilgamesh is, because he's stated to be the strongest heroic spirit multiple times throughout multiple series, but people still try to downplay him for some reason. The 3 losses that people try to bring up to downplay Gilgamesh are his losses in Fate Stay Night, the first against Saber, the second against Shiro, and the third against like Dark Sakura. But in the guide it's actually stated that he lost to Saber due to obsession, he lost to Shiro because of his pride, and he lost to Dark Sakura because he was careless, which makes sense. The whole time he's fighting Saber, he's trying to get her to be his wife. In his battle against Shiro, he almost refuses to pull out Ea, which is his big trump card that Shiro himself is terrified of, because he used it right before going into Unlimited Blade Works against the Grail, and just the shockwave of it about killed Shiro. So as soon as Gilgamesh finally was ready to bring it out, Shiro was like, ah, nah, son, and just cuts Gilgamesh's arm off. And even then, Gilgamesh hesitated to bring it out in the first place, which did also allow Shiro to have the opening to cut off Gilgamesh's arm. And then finally against Sakura, it's just stated that the mud that she used, the Grail mud, is actually stronger than the one in Fate Zero, so I mean, there's your answer for that one. It's also stated in the guide that he is the strongest character in Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, and that if he wanted to, he could have ended the Fate Zero Grail War in one night, but chose not to do it for pride reasons, and also, you know, obviously because they gotta tell a story. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Next video will be covering how powerful Yami is, and then I can move on to doing the Gote 13, which I'm pretty hyped about. So again, stay hyped for that, my dudes. Discord is linked in the description. Do not forget about the fate pool in the top right hand corner. With that being said, you guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.